Before we begin, if you're listening to this alone at night, you're exactly where you should be. Subscribe and turn on notifications for more true horror stories, disturbing encounters, and unexplained events uploaded every day. Now lock your doors, turn off the lights, and let's get into tonight's stories. Most people only see tow trucks on someone's worst day. A flat tire, a dead battery, a wreck on the highway. For tow truck drivers, those calls are routine. The jobs that stay with you aren't the accidents. They're the abandoned vehicles. The cars nobody reports missing. The trucks that sit untouched for weeks. The calls where dispatch gives you an address, but no customer ever shows up. I thought I had seen every kind of roadside recovery, until I towed a pickup truck that somehow kept arriving. Before I did, my name is Scott. I drove a rollback tow truck for a company that covered several counties across western Missouri. Night shifts paid more because most drivers didn't want them. I didn't mind. The roads were quieter. Traffic was lighter. Most calls were simple. Breakdowns, lockouts, minor crashes. You loaded the vehicle, delivered it, went on to the next job. Around 1 a.m, dispatch sent me to recover an abandoned pickup near mile marker 66. State police had tagged it after receiving multiple reports. No owner had come forward. The highway was almost empty. Rain had just begun falling. When I reached the mile marker, there was no truck, only wet pavement and flashing hazard reflectors left behind by the trooper. I checked both shoulders. Nothing. I called dispatch. Negative on the vehicle. The dispatcher sounded confused. The trooper confirmed it was still there 10 minutes ago. It isn't now. Thinking the truck had been stolen before I arrived, I started driving the shoulder. About half a mile later, my headlights caught it. An old black pickup parked neatly against the guardrail. No lights, no license plate, driver's door standing open. I pulled in behind it. The interior was empty, keys still in the ignition, engine cold, no damage. It looked as though someone had simply stepped away. Company policy required photographing every abandoned vehicle before towing. I took several pictures, then began loading it onto the rollback. As I tightened the final wool straps, my radio crackled. Dispatch. Scott. Status? Vehicle loaded. Silence. Then, Scott. The trooper says the pickup is still sitting at mile marker 66. I looked into my mirrors. The truck was secured behind me. I've got it. Another pause. The trooper says you're looking at an empty shoulder. Neither of us spoke. I finished securing the load and headed toward the impound yard. About 15 minutes into the drive, I glanced in the rearview camera. The rollback bed was empty. I hit the brakes immediately. The straps remained tightened, exactly as I'd left them. Only the pickup was gone. Certain I'd somehow imagined the whole thing. I returned to mile marker 66. The pickup sat exactly where I'd first found it. Driver's door open. Keys still in the ignition. Waiting. This time, I looked inside more carefully. The dashboard clock wasn't working. The fuel gauge rested below empty. Dust covered the steering wheel. Except, there were fresh muddy footprints on the driver's floorboard. Only one set, leading in, none leading back out. I loaded the truck again. Double-checked every chain, every strap, every latch. Nothing could possibly fall off. Halfway to the impound yard, my phone rang. It was another tow driver. You already at the yard? No. Why? I just passed that pickup on the highway. My hands tightened around the steering wheel. That's impossible. I just saw it, parked at mile marker 66. I immediately checked the camera. The truck remained behind me, exactly where it should have been. When I finally reached the impound lot, I backed the rollback into the unloading area. The moment I lowered the bed, the pickup's engine started, by itself. The headlights came on. The truck rolled backward off the rollback. No driver. No one inside. It stopped just beyond the gate, engine idling quietly. Then, it shut itself off. The police inspected it the following morning. No fingerprints. No registration. No VIN plate. Nothing identifying the owner. The vehicle was officially listed as abandoned. 3 days later, it disappeared from the locked impound yard. Security cameras never captured it leaving. Only one frame showed anything unusual. Every camera froze for exactly 4 seconds. When the video resumed, the The space where the pickup had been was empty. Months passed. Life returned to normal. One rainy night, dispatch sent me to another abandoned vehicle. Different county, different highway. As I drove toward the call, I passed mile marker 66. The black pickup sat quietly on the shoulder. Exactly where I'd first found it. Driver's door open. Waiting. Dispatch hadn't mentioned that truck. The state police hadn't reported it. No emergency lights flashed nearby. It was simply there. I kept driving. I didn't stop. Some abandoned vehicles aren't waiting for a tow. They're waiting for the next driver willing to hook them up. And after everything I experienced, I have no intention of being that driver again. Most people think the dangerous part of towing ends once the vehicle reaches the impound lot. It doesn't. The highway is unpredictable. The impound yard is quiet. Too quiet. Rows of wrecked cars. Abandoned vehicles. Evidence holds. Insurance totals. Thousands of keys hanging inside a locked office. I've spent enough nights dropping off damaged cars to know every lot has strange noises. Metal cools. Wind whistles through broken windows. Animals climb underneath vehicles. Those sounds don't bother you. The sound of a car door closing, when you're the only person inside the fence, does. My name is Travis. I work the overnight rotation for a towing company contracted with several police departments across central Oklahoma. Most nights followed the same pattern. Accidents, breakdowns, impounds. After each tow, I'd unlock the storage yard, park the vehicle in its assigned space, complete the paperwork, and leave. The police impound lot sat on the edge of an industrial district. 3 acres of chain-link fencing, floodlights, security cameras, rows of vehicles waiting for insurance companies or investigators. By midnight, the place always felt abandoned. One Thursday night, I arrived with a silver SUV involved in a hit-and-run investigation. The officer handed me the paperwork before leaving. Evidence row. Space E12. Simple enough. I unlocked the gate, drove inside, closed it behind me. Standard procedure. As I parked the SUV, I noticed another set of headlights near the back fence. An old sedan idled quietly between 2 rows of wrecked vehicles. I assumed another tow driver had arrived first. I waved. No response. After unloading the SUV, I looked again. The headlights were gone. The space was empty. I shrugged it off. Maybe the other driver had already left. I finished the paperwork and started walking toward the office. Halfway there, I heard a car door slam. Hard. Somewhere behind me. I turned immediately. Nothing moved. Every vehicle remained exactly where it belonged. No engines running. No lights. No people. The wind had completely died. The lot was silent again. Inside the office, I hung the keys on the evidence board and completed the intake forms. As I reached for the exit door, the office phone rang. No caller ID. Just an extension number. I answered. Silence. Then, someone whispered, "Wrong row." The line went dead. I checked every office. Nobody. The security monitor showed empty rows of vehicles. No movement anywhere on the property. Thinking another employee had been playing a joke, I locked the office and headed back outside. The silver SUV wasn't in space E12 anymore. It sat 3 rows away, perfectly parked in space C7. I stared at it. I knew where I'd left it. I'd taken photographs before unloading. Every picture clearly showed space E12. Certain someone had moved it while I was inside. I reviewed the security cameras. The footage showed me backing the SUV into E12. I walked toward the office. Nobody approached the vehicle. Nobody entered the lot. Yet, when the camera switched to the next angle, the SUV was suddenly sitting in C7. No movement. No missing frames. Just there. The police officer returned the following morning. I apologized for parking in the wrong space. He looked confused. You didn't. He checked the paperwork. Evidence vehicles always go in C7. I showed him my photographs. He studied them carefully, then quietly handed the phone back. I don't know what to tell you. Over the next several weeks, small things kept happening. Keys disappeared from the evidence board, then reappeared exactly where they belonged. Vehicles unlocked themselves overnight. Horns sounded even after batteries had been removed. No one could explain any of it. One rainy evening, I arrived with a burned pickup truck from a rural highway. The truck had been destroyed by fire. There wasn't much left except the frame and cab. The investigating deputy met me at the gate. "Park this one in row D." He hesitated. "Away from row G." "Why?" "Just do it." I almost laughed. Tow truck drivers aren't superstitious. At least, most aren't. After unloading the pickup, I heard footsteps, crunching across loose gravel. Slow, steady, walking through row G. My flashlight swept between wrecked cars. Nothing. The footsteps continued, always one aisle away. Curiosity got the better of me. I followed. Row G contained mostly vehicles involved in fatal crashes. Most had already been stripped for evidence. Broken glass covered the pavement. Airbags hung from steering wheels. Everything smelled faintly of burned rubber and oil. Halfway down the row, every car alarm activated at once. Dozens of vehicles, all screaming together. Red taillights flashed across the lot. Headlights blinked on and off. The noise was deafening. Then, just as suddenly, every alarm stopped. Complete silence. One vehicle remained lit. An old white station wagon parked at the end of the row. Its headlights stayed on. Engine off. Battery supposedly dead. I walked toward it. The driver's door slowly opened. Nobody stepped out. On the driver's seat rested a clipboard, exactly like the ones we used for tow paperwork. A completed impound form sat clipped to it. The customer name was blank. The vehicle description was blank. Only the destination had been filled in. Row G. A cold breeze passed through the lot. The station wagon's headlights shut off. The driver's door quietly closed. I left immediately. I didn't finish the paperwork until I reached the office. The next morning, I asked the yard supervisor about row G. He became unusually serious. "Who told you to go down there?" "No one." He sighed. "We stopped storing cars there." "Then why are they still parked there?" "They're waiting for insurance." He paused. "Mostly." Several months later, the city built a larger impound facility across town. Every vehicle was transferred. Every fence removed. Every floodlight taken down. The old lot was completely cleared. Except one row. Row G. According to demolition workers, every vehicle in that row had already been removed. Yet, each morning, they were back. Parked in the exact same spaces. Doors closed. Windows intact. Waiting. Today, I still drive a tow truck. I've delivered thousands of vehicles to storage yards. Whenever a dispatcher gives me an impound assignment, I ask one question before accepting it. What row? Most people think I'm checking for available space. The truth is, I'm making sure the answer isn't G. Every tow truck driver has one call they never forget. Not because the wreck was bad, not because someone got hurt. Those calls become part of the job. The ones that stay with you are the roadside assistance calls that seem completely ordinary, until you realize no one actually requested them. I learned that during my last call of a night shift. Dispatch sent me to help a stranded driver on an empty stretch of highway. The only problem was, the customer had been waiting there long before anyone called. And when I checked the dispatch log later, the call had never existed. My name is Daniel. I worked the overnight shift for a towing company contracted with several state police agencies across northern Arizona. Night calls were usually straightforward. Dead batteries, flat tires, disabled vehicles. Every now and then we'd recover a crashed car from a ditch. Nothing I hadn't done before. Just after 4 in the morning, when I was already thinking about heading back to the yard, my radio crackled. Truck 7. Respond to a disabled sedan on County Road 42. The dispatcher added one detail. Customer reports engine failure. Routine. County Road 42 cut through miles of open desert. Very little traffic. No businesses. No houses. Just long stretches of pavement disappearing into darkness. About 20 minutes later, my headlights found the sedan. It sat neatly on the shoulder. Hazard lights flashing. The driver's door was closed. Someone stood beside the guardrail. As I parked behind the car, the man raised one hand in a small wave. He wore a dark jacket and jeans. Nothing unusual. I stepped out with the paperwork. "You the one who called?" He smiled politely. "No, I've just been waiting." I assumed he meant he'd been waiting for roadside assistance. It wasn't uncommon. Cell service out there was unreliable. I asked for his driver's license. He looked toward the sedan. I left everything inside. No problem. I walked over to the driver's door. Locked. Through the window. The interior was empty. No keys. No wallet. No registration. Nothing. I turned around. The man was still standing by the guardrail. Perfectly still. Watching me. You said your license was inside. He nodded. It was. Something about the way he answered made me uneasy. I decided to load the car first and sort everything out afterward. The sedan rolled onto the flatbed without any trouble. As I secured the front tires, I noticed something odd. The odometer displayed 0 miles. Not a low number. Exactly 0. The dashboard looked decades old. Yet every gauge appeared brand new. Almost untouched. I climbed down and walked back toward the man. He wasn't there anymore. I searched both sides of the road with my flashlight. Nothing. There wasn't anywhere nearby to walk. Only open desert stretching for miles. Thinking he'd wandered off, I radioed dispatch. No contact with the owner. Several seconds passed. Then dispatch replied, "What owner?" "The disabled sedan." Silence. "We don't have you assigned to a disabled sedan." I frowned. "You just dispatched me." "No. You're clear to return to the yard." Before I could answer, the radio emitted a burst of static. Then another voice spoke. "Calm. Quiet. Finish the tow." I looked in the rearview camera. The sedan remained secured behind my truck. Everything looked normal. About 10 miles later, I glanced at the camera again. The flatbed was empty. My stomach dropped. I pulled onto the shoulder. Every chain remained tightened. Every wheel strap locked in place. Exactly as I'd left them. Only the car was gone. As I stepped out, headlights appeared behind me. The same sedan, parked neatly on the shoulder. Hazard lights flashing. Exactly like before. The man stood beside the guardrail, waiting. This time, I didn't stop. I drove past without slowing down. The rest of the trip was quiet. When I reached the yard, the night supervisor looked confused. "Why are you back so early?" "I just finished a tow." He checked the computer. "No, you didn't. According to the dispatch system, my final completed job had ended over an hour earlier. There was no record of another assignment. No customer. No location. Nothing. I almost convinced myself I'd imagined everything. Until the following week. State police requested a recovery along County Road 42 after another driver reported an abandoned sedan blocking the shoulder. Different shift. Different deputy. I wasn't assigned. Another tow operator handled it. He never returned to the yard that morning. His truck was eventually found parked beside the highway. Engine still running. Flatbed empty. No sign of the driver. The official report suggested he wandered away after becoming disoriented. No one believed it. Tow truck drivers don't leave their trucks running in the middle of nowhere. A month later, I resigned. Not because of that missing driver. Not entirely. It was because every few nights, usually just before dawn, my company radio would come alive. No dispatch tone. No unit number. Just one calm voice asking the same question. "How long until you get here?" Eventually, I stopped answering. A few weeks after leaving the job, I was driving my own pickup home late one night. The road curved around a long stretch of empty desert. Far ahead, I saw flashing hazard lights. A sedan parked neatly on the shoulder. Someone standing beside the guardrail. Waiting. I recognized the silhouette immediately. Same jacket. Same relaxed posture. The man slowly lifted one hand. Not waving for help. Waving to me. As if he'd known I'd be coming. I kept driving. I never looked in the mirror. Because some stranded motorists don't need a tow. They just need someone willing to stop. And once you do, you might become the next driver everyone else starts searching for.